Hello, in this video, we're going to be talking about the pelvic girdle. Let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. All right, when we're talking pelvic girdle, hey, one of the first things we want to emphasize that we are talking about the topic that connects the top of the body with the bottom of the body. That connection point, things from above are going to be connected to, things below are going to be connected to. So we are certainly transitioning from the top to the bottom with the pelvic girdle. And as always, there's a lot of information to collect, which will be the focal point of many of your test questions. What we're going to focus on is just the names of the types, not the types, of the different bones and some of the sections. We got a nice little color-coded version on one of our screens here that will be nice. And of course, once we get on those day 2 activities, we'll be certainly just having a pelvic girdle right there and just say, hey, this is this, this is this, this is this, and even in a particular bone, the different sections, the iliac crest and things like that. So here we go. So we certainly want to talk about or point out that you can see in the diagram way over there beside me there that that middle, you can see if you look down through that big foramen in the middle, you can see the coccyx down there, you can see the sacrum down there. So that just kind of gives you a position reference to where the pelvic girdle is. It is not certainly below the vertebrae. It meets that bottom part, and you can even see a little bit of what appears to be a vertebrae at the very, very top. But that's the idea. And then so the two hip bones, the coaxial bones, they are fused together with that bottom part of the vertebrae, the sacrum area, and that's what connects those. So that's a pretty fused, solid bone area there. And of course, you can see the elastic cartilage right there in the front, which designed to kind of give away a little bit, a little squeeze, a little constrict, contract, kind of a thing. And of course, once we see the side view, you'll see the foramens where everything for the legs runs down through, like certainly the bone and any of the resources. Okay, so again, just some other information, and for the most part, what we're going to point out is, well, one of the things we're going to look at is the difference between males and females. Obviously, there's some labor, no pun intended, issues there that obviously have to be dealt with. But again, it's just as all these bones, lots of names, and we'll certainly hit on the important one. But again, there's a reference to the joint, the cyclic joint that joins the hip bones, the vertebrae column. The symphysis. Those are those interlying areas along the bridges that once we have our hands on it, we will talk about that. But that inlet in the middle is kind of where you're looking down through it. All those are super important, and we will get to those more in a lab type setting. All right, so again, you always have these true false situations. The flare of the hips, you can see those big ridges along the top, and you can actually feel those. You can feel that in there if you palpitate your sides there. And then the purple area over to the very far right, that's a kind of a cross-section look at that connection point inside. I mean, obviously your legs, have a lot of moving forward, moving backwards. You can do that kind of exercise, walking, running, and of course you can push your leg backwards, walking backwards, that kind of stuff. And we'll definitely see it on the next screen. But there's that hip joint in there that's designed to be able to give your legs that movement. Of course, we know the legs don't. They can go side to side, at the foot and the knee level, but at that connection point, it doesn't go side to side. There's a little bit of wobble in there where you can move your foot left to right, cross over your feet, that kind of stuff. But here's one of the main distinctions that we want to talk about. You can see it kind of color coded there. There are three major areas: the ilium, the ischium, and then the pubis. You can see they're color coded there. And then the other aspect to consider is that you can see it. You can see the circle kind of in the middle there. Obviously, it's kind of the outside is kind of made to where you can see through it, so you can see that circle. But that's obviously your hip joint there. And again, the color coded. The ilium, the largest part, and the iliac crest, and again, that's the part that you can see. That's the part that, as a long-time football coach, when you wear those hip pads, those things on the side, that's what you're trying to. That's the part that you're protecting there from taking a helmet right to. And then the other two sections are in the lower half, one in the front, one in the back of that ring around. That allows all the resources, nerves, blood vessels, and everything to run through. And of course, of the distinct features of this, you've got the iliac crest, which is that very tall ridge there. You can see at the very, very top, that ridge there. And then you've got the big foramen in the middle, where all the resources, again, as I mentioned, can run through. So those are some key features. And then here's the information on the last two, the ischium and the pubis, for you to collect, which will possibly show up in a test somewhere. So be sure you grab those, pause it, whatever you got to do. But we want to talk about our last big topic. Okay, are those differences between the male and the female pelvic girdle. You can see, obviously, just from, if you didn't know, if it wasn't labeled, you could certainly tell from the information which was which. But you can see that the female pelvic girdle, on the inward foramen, the big circle in the middle, that is much larger than the male. The male is kind of more designed to hold a heavier, beefier body. Because you got to think about that pelvic girdle it's kind of bowl shaped. It isn't just round like a cylinder like the thoracic cage was. It's more of a bowl shape, and everything kind of sits on that as a kind of a bottom support. So it is kind of, as I mentioned, bowl shaped. But the female, a little bit lighter and a much wider foramen there in the middle. And that's for the obvious reasons of childbirth. A baby has to pass through that, or offspring has to pass through that. I mean, if it's kind of setting, in the stomach area, it's got to pass through that as one of the first channels or places to get through. And of course, we know that's not the more serious of the two passages, but enough about that. And of course, then you can see the inlet angle is again much wider on a female pelvic girdle. Again, just with the idea of assisting as it can with childbirth. So that's our video over pelvic girdle. When we come back to there next time, we're going to be talking about the lower limbs, part 1. We'll see you then.